Hello and welcome to the opening ceremony of the Australian National University College of Asia and the Pacific's annual Asia Pacific Week conference. My name is Grace Underhill and I am honoured to be the director of this year's conference. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, the custodians of the land on which our community lives, studies and will be hosting the conference from, here at the Australian National University in Canberra, ACT. We wish to acknowledge and respect the continuing culture, aspirations and contributions they make to the life of Canberra and the region. Recently, we were honoured to be joined by Dr Aunty Matilda House, a Ngunnawal and Ngambri traditional owner and Indigenous elder, who performed a traditional smoking ceremony for the committee and our delegates online.
I'd like to welcome you, all you wonderful people, for this Asian Pacific Conference 2021. And today you're on the land of the Ngambri people. A land is so ancient, yet so respectful. We respect you as you come into our land, our country, and I hope that you will respect us to be here with us as well and walk on this lovely, lovely country. Always was and always will be. Asia Pacific countries are part of us for millions of years, you know, down through the Ice Age. That's how it was formed. But today, here, I want to welcome you all here today and always maintain the respect that we have for each other. And for you to be here on this beautiful land of my ancestors of Black Harry, the Ngambri man, the Ngambri country. I'm Aunty Matilda House, Dr Matilda House, and I love and respect you all here that are with us today. So thank you very much for sharing this smoking ceremony with me. And thank you for a better future for all of us. And welcome to Ngambri country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aunty Matilda, for performing the traditional smoking ceremony for us. The Asia and Pacific regions are diverse, complex, and ever-evolving. Now in its 11th year, Asia Pacific Week continues to be a platform for young and emerging leaders to come together, share ideas, encourage curiosity and growth, and leave with a greater compassion and understanding of the issues and opportunities we face both in Australia and our region. Today, I would like to welcome to our opening ceremony our keynote speaker, Professor Penny Sacket, the College of Asia and the Pacific's Dean, Professor Sharon Bell, convener of the Asia Pacific Week course, Associate Professor Katerina Teaiwa, and of course, our delegates of this year's conference. This year, we hope to celebrate the diversity of the participants in our conference. We welcome delegates from all disciplines, whether it be international relations, law, science, commerce, or philosophy. Moreover, our delegates hail from across the world, spanning 5 continents and speaking over 35 languages. We welcome delegates from Vietnam, China, South Korea, and our largest ever number of delegates from Pacific Island nations, such as Kiribati, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands. 2 years ago, I was lucky enough to attend Asia Pacific Week 2019 as a delegate to the in-person conference held at the ANU. Asia Pacific Week was the first time I had engaged in Asian or Pacific studies, and the opportunity to connect with people who had flown into Canberra from all across the world was one completely unique to anything I had experienced before. Last year, in my role as a committee member for Asia Pacific Week 2020, when faced with a rapidly expanding pandemic, we made the decision to move to an online conference. At the time we were, like most of you, in uncharted waters, uncertain in the face of rapidly changing border closures and new technological platforms. However, with these challenges has come opportunities. This year we approach Asia Pacific Week with a renewed confidence in the benefits that a virtual platform provides. It allows us, unhindered by travel budgets or time away from home, to host a conference for 80 delegates, whereby we can promote the forging of connections, sharing of ideas, and establishment of transnational relationships in the midst of a global pandemic.
Hello. My name is Penny Sacket, and it's my special honor to welcome you to the 11th Asia-Pacific Week here on the land of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people. You've been described as excellent scholars and young professionals that will be tomorrow's leaders. Congratulations. But I don't think you have to wait until tomorrow to be a leader. You can be a leader now, and the world needs you to be a leader now. There are many ways to lead, and many areas to lead in. You will make your own choice. So I can't give you a prescription for how to be a good leader, but I do think there are two qualities that you could nurture that will make you stronger in any path that you take. And they are authenticity and agency. Identity is who you are, who you believe you are, who you know you are deep down inside. And authenticity is acting in a way that is true to that identity, true to yourself, without putting on a mask to please others. Throughout life, some may try to tell you who you are or what you need to do to conform to a particular identity. For example, they might tell you what it means, what it should mean to be a good Hindu, a good Christian, a good Muslim, a good Jew, a good Buddhist. Or maybe they'll tell you what it ought to mean to be a patriotic Indonesian or Australian or Thai or Pacific Islander. They might have expectations on what it means to be a good daughter or son, what it means to be a true liberal or a true conservative. But these choices are not theirs. These choices are yours. Only you can decide what to believe and how to behave to be true to your authentic self. It's not an easy thing to do, but the more we practice at being authentic, the easier it is for us to take off those masks. When I was young, it was odd in the extreme for a woman to be interested in science, let alone to pursue a career in physics. And I rebelled against that stereotype, somewhat successfully, but I fell into another one. I felt that in order to be taken seriously as a physicist, I had to wear plaid flannel shirts and dress like the boys. That was the mask that I wore in my university days. Agency is that ability not just to choose how you will act, but to powerfully use your own skills for the purposes that you deem most important. The key is to not relinquish your personal power to higher authorities. Being a scientist is an important part of my personal identity. And as I said, I was able to avoid some of the typical stereotypes, but I did fall into other traps. And one of those traps was giving my personal agency to others. As a scientist that has devoted the latter part of her life to action on climate change, I was devastated in 2009 when the United Nations in Copenhagen failed to come to an agreement for active, immediate action on climate change. I was devastated. And it took me a while to realize that one of the reasons I was so depressed was that I had given some of my agency to the United Nations. I had assumed that they would solve this problem for me, that my fate was in their hands alone. When instead I realized that there was much I could do as an individual with my skills, my passion, and my networks, combating climate change became much less depressing and much more empowering. And I became more effective because I was using my own personal agency. Did you know that if you're younger than 42, and 2/3 of the world's population is, that every year you have lived, the global temperatures have been higher than the average temperature in the previous century? Indeed, you're living in an environment that is completely unlike that in which I became an adult. It's no surprise to me that students are protesting on the streets. It's no surprise to me that Greta Thunberg has been invited to speak to the United Nations. Whether your passion is climate change or one of the other great challenges of our times, build and trust your own agency to make a difference. It's a special honor for me to be able to present to you on this 11th Asia-Pacific Week. How can it be that someone who grew up in the very middle of the United States, about as far away from Asia and the Pacific Ocean as you can get, is here today to talk to you? Well, life has many twists and turns, but what brought me to Australia was my love of astrophysics. And I mention that because one of my perspectives, a special piece of my identity, is and will always be as a creature of the planet Earth. The more I learn about the vastness and the wonders of space, the more I feel connected to this tiny little planet. And the more I understand the eons of time, the millions of years of cycles in the cosmos, the more I realize how precious my little life is on this planet. The Asia-Pacific is an incredibly vibrant and diverse piece of this planet, with incredible landscapes, ancient wisdom, and a largely untapped potential for modern knowledge. The challenge for our region is to maintain our distinct identities with authenticity, while using our personal agency to protect and thrive as creatures on this common planet we call home. A diverse and exciting program has been planned for you, and it will be even more diverse and exciting if you remain authentic and use your agency to engage with all of the delegates of this Asia-Pacific Week. I look forward to hearing how you go. Good luck, and have fun.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Professor Sharon Bell. I'm Dean of the College of Asia and the Pacific at the Australian National University. I would also like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I'm meeting with you, which is the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, elders past and present. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional knowledge that they bring to us and the experiences that they bring and share. And I'm very aware that all of you are in different parts of the country, other parts of the world, and I acknowledge those who are on other traditional lands and the First Nations peoples with whom we're meeting. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this Asia Pacific Week, the 11th year of Asia Pacific Week. What a fantastic achievement for an event which is very largely organised by students and which is the impetus and has all the energy of our students here at the ANU involved in this capstone project. I'd like to acknowledge that this is an absolutely critical time. There's no reason really to say that. It's a critical time for Asia and the Pacific. perhaps a time when we've never faced so many collective challenges. It's not just the pandemic, it's that we're looking at a very dynamic situation in our region. We're looking at rapidly changing relationships, rapidly changing geopolitical dimensions and dynamics of our region. And so these discussions that you're going to have this week are going to be absolutely so critical for you in particular to be imagining and reimagining the future. I know that you'll have the opportunity to discuss a fantastically wide range of subject areas, themes of women in diplomacy, themes of the history of the pandemic, environment and society, and particular initiatives such as the impact of the seasonal workers program. There are so many dimensions to these subjects, so much that you can explore. I'm sure it will be time of fantastic dialogue and debate, and I'm absolutely confident that you will bring with you a range of different ways of seeing and understanding. You'll bring a wide range of different experiences, and that will all come together to be not, I hope, creating too much discomfort, but I do hope it creates some discomfort, because discomfort is one of the spaces from which we learn. Discomfort sometimes caused by the fact that we don't share the same experiences, we don't share the same culture, and we don't even necessarily speak exactly the same language or share the same understandings. Unveiling layers of crises, thinking about learning from the past and imagining the future. You'll have those many perspectives, those many experiences, and I think all of them, though, are perhaps connected by a theme which I'd like you to think about, I hope you think about during the week. And that is a theme that I've seen emerging during the pandemic in particular, but also during the many crises that we're now facing with extreme weather events associated with climate change. And that is the question of how is our world changing in terms of increasing inequality, and what are we doing to address that? That is a heavy responsibility that we all carry and that you will carry into the future and your futures. In that context, I think about the words of the wonderful peace builder and negotiator Jean-Paul Lederach, who asked the critical question, for whom do we mourn? Because the reality is that we don't treat all people as equal. And sometimes it's those people who are experiencing the greatest inequality in times of crises for whom we forget to mourn, for whom perhaps we find it difficult to connect, for whom experience of life is so different to ours that it makes it hard to connect. But there are so many at the moment for whom we should be mourning, and we should be finding the creative empathy to engage. I hope this week gives you that opportunity for intellectual and creative engagement, which will enable you to step outside the spaces that are comfort zones to you and really imagine the future. But very importantly, imagine what your role is in terms of creating that future. The future that you shape will be absolutely your responsibility, and the future that you shape for your children and grandchildren eventually is all our responsibilities. It is a fantastic way for you to contribute by engaging in the most mindful way and to be present in the discussions this week. I do hope is an experience which is as life-changing as any travel opportunity. Please do enjoy and engage in respectful and deep conversation. Thank you.
Kamna Maori, Nisambula Vinaka, Talofalava, good day and greetings from Canberra, from Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. I'd like to pay my respect to these traditional owners, their ancestors, elders, and communities, and acknowledge their lands were never ceded. I'm Katerina Teaiwa, the academic convener for Asia Pacific Week here at the Australian National University. I was born and raised in Fiji, and my family originates in Kiribati and the United States. I'm an associate professor in Pacific Studies in the School of Culture, History and Language here in the College of Asia and the Pacific, which funds and supports Asia Pacific Week. Our team of student coordinators has been working very hard on our conference this year, which is titled Unveiling Layers of Crisis, Learning from the Past, Reimagining the Future. This is our second virtual Asia Pacific Week after we moved into the digital space as a result of the global COVID pandemic in 2020. Our theme was selected after reflecting on the many health, technical, security, cultural, economic, and travel ban responses to the pandemic. We asked whether humanity had learned from similar historical experiences and from the context of climate change that is fueling environmental, social, and economic challenges across the planet. In our part of the world, there have been countless historical disasters ranging from measles in 1875 and the Spanish flu of 1918 that killed thousands of people across the islands, to the massive impacts of colonialism, World War II, nuclear testing, mining, globalization, and recently, the increased intensity of bushfires, cyclones, and hurricanes, and of course, sea level rise as a result of climate change and the overall human impact on the environment. Given the increasing number of disasters, it's also remarkable that there are still strong, creative, and resilient communities and cultures across Australia, Oceania, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and Asia who have become so as a result of surviving, adapting to, and learning from historical challenges. Such survival does not mean we can continue to exploit people or our environments and natural resources without consequence. Both science and Indigenous wisdom have taught us that there is a need to adjust our values, behaviors, practices, and attitudes towards each other and the planet for the sake of social justice, equity, well-being, and the survival of future generations. I want to read you a poem by my late sister, Dr. Katerina Teaiwa, a historian and widely respected teacher who is also a Pacific Studies scholar. Because one of our major themes this year is learning from the past, her poem Amnesia is appropriate. We have forgotten how to remember so much. So many stars, so many moons, so many winds, so many waves, so many fish, so many birds, so many flowers, so many leaves, so many trees, so many roots, so many ancestors, so many gods, so many relatives, so many relations, so many stories, so many words, so many ways. We have forgotten how to remember so much. We hope this conference will give you all an opportunity to remember, to listen, to discuss, to learn, and to reflect on history and how our contemporary issues are affecting you, your families, your loved ones, your communities, and your countries. We also hope you get to know each other and have a bit of fun too, and most importantly, imagine what we can do differently heading into the future. Kampasin rapa, vinaka vakalevu, and have a wonderful time together.
In choosing our theme for this year, Unveiling Layers of Crises, Learning from the Past, Reimagining the Future, The committee was mindful of not only the most obvious crisis facing us in the immediate future, COVID-19, but also the layered consequences of numerous other crises in our region that have gone unrecognised or under-acknowledged. This week, we hope to reflect upon past pandemics, past conflicts, and past successes. We hope to use these learnings to reimagine our approach to the challenges facing us ahead, whether it be addressing climate migration in the Pacific, understanding lasting legacies of colonialism, or keeping alive the language and cultural traditions that binds us into communities. In an increasingly globalised and interconnected world, the events of the past year have brought people together in an unprecedented way. Despite being confined by borders, we hope our common experiences and the wonders of technology will, over the next 4 days, allow us to come together and share new perspectives. While we cannot welcome you in person to Canberra this year, we are grateful to have you join us virtually from all over the world. I hope you all get as much out of this conference as I did 2 years ago, and I wish you luck in your future endeavours.